Charlie G.
Okay, council and staff and everyone in the audience, would you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so very much, and thank you all for joining us tonight. Next, we have roll call. Ms. Martinez?
Okay, Councilor Broyles,
Here.
Councilor Hensley,
Here.
Mayor Coleman,
Here?
Councilor Vijo, Councilor Griego,
Present.
Councilor Carson,
Here.
and Councilor Daniel previously requested to be excused.
Okay, thank you. The next item we have is the agenda approval.
Mayor, I move that we approve the agenda excusing Counselor Daniel from the meeting.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, Ms. Martinez, will you please take the vote?
Yes, sir. Councilor Vijo?
Here.
Mayor Coleman,
Yes.
Councilor Hensley,
Here.
Councilor Broyles,
Yes.
Councilor Griego,
Yes.
Councilor Carson.
Yes.
The motion carried unanimously.
Okay, thank you. Up next, we have citizen comments. This is a segment of the agenda to where we ask the citizens to come up to the podium, state your name, and make any comments that you may have. We identify the ones who are going to speak by holding up these comment cards, and I'll call your name from the comment cards, and feel free to come up to the podium. We do ask that you keep your comments to within 3 minutes. There is a clock right there. And if you're still talking at the 3-minute mark, I will politely ask you to end the comments at that particular time. The first person I have is Don Thompson. If you can come up to the podium.
Thank you, Mayor Coleman.
You're welcome, sir.
I'm Don Thompson, live at 924 8th Street. I'm a member of the Historic Preservation Advisory Committee, and I was out of town at your last meeting when you declared May to be Historic Preservation Advisory Month. I appreciate your doing that, and so look for this opportunity to come and thank you. And also try and update you a little bit on what HPAC has been doing. We are working diligently on an issue that came up just fairly recently, the suggestion that we see about installing an information plaque or display in Zapata Park to commemorate the Mestis case. And as I go around talking to people, I'm surprised how few people know what I think is an outstanding issue that we should be doing more about. I've gotten good vibes from the natural historic area and from the people working on the Mestis case who have a bronze relief that they want to install down at the Judicial Center. The case, of course, revolved around a student that lived up at 117 Ross, had to walk down to 9th and Ross, where Zapata Park is now, to attend the Mexican school. And his father didn't want him doing that, took the case to court, and in 1916, the case was founded favorably, the first desegregation case in the United States. I'm looking forward to Alamosa being known as the place where the first desegregation case was founded, both to promote historic tourism and I think to instill pride in our community that we have something of really such momentous occasion that happened right here because an individual stuck up for his rights and said, you know, I'm not going to allow this to happen. The father worked for the railroad. At that time, there were, I think, 5 passenger trains daily through, plus, of course, all the freight business that was going on back and forth across through the rail yard. So anyway, we're looking at having information about the case, maybe a map showing where he lived, where the Mexican school was. And we think that the Zapata Park location, of course, is appropriate, and hopefully we'll get you back then to designate that as a historic landmark in Alamosa. I thank you for your
Thank
time.
you so very much, and thank you for sharing that history with us. We appreciate it. Okay. The next card I have is Juanita Mesas.
Hello, thank you for having me.
You're welcome.
So my reason today is just to bring awareness about our free program. So I'm just going to tell you a little bit in a quick nutshell about our program. So my name is Juanita Mestas, and I am the FFN coordinator for the San Luis Valley for the free program. And FFN stands for Friends, Family, and Neighbor. And those are brothers, aunties, grandparents, anybody who provides childcare services that are not licensed. The free program, what is that? It stands for Fostering Resilience in Early Education. And so it's a program focused on ensuring that caregivers of young children 0 to 5 prioritize their own well-being and receive support and services to provide positive care to these children. We're finding out that, you know, they have a lot of stress, depression, low wages. They don't have no social time. You know, they're with these kiddos all day long. So that's why the University of Colorado brought in the free program. And so we're having cohorts of 0 to 5 people. They've been 5, and we provide wellness, mindfulness activities, self-care goals, environmental goals. So that's everything in a nutshell. So we just wanted to see if maybe we could share a little bit more information and maybe get on the agenda later on and talk more about our program. All right.
Okay. All right. Thank you. And Ms. Martinez will be the one to follow up with about getting on
Okay.
an agenda, and she can tell you what the process is.
All
like.
right. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much. Okay, Ms. Martinez, I don't have any other comment cards. So we're going to go ahead and move on down the agenda to the next
Mayor,
item.
Did
Yes.
you want to offer the attendees on Zoom to speak
Oh,
if they wanted
yes.
to?
So let's do that. So if you're an attendee and you're on Zoom, Ms. Martinez is going to give you instructions of how to raise your hand so that you can make comments at this time as well.
Okay, so if you're on the Zoom app, there's that raise your hand button that you can click. If you click that, it'll show me you want to speak right now. And then if you're on the telephone to do that feature, you'll press *9.
So if you could switch the view to attendees, Ms. Martinez, then we can see if we have any hands raised. Is it? Okay, sorry. Okay,
I
no
don't see any
raised.
hands.
Okay, I don't see any hands raised. Thank you, Councilor Hensley. All righty, so we'll move on down to ceremonial items. The first item is the Public Works Week proclamation. And I'll go ahead and read that proclamation here. But Harry, there you go. I don't know if you would like to say a few words before I read the proclamation, and then council will step down there and take a picture with you, okay?
Thank you, Mayor.
You're welcome.
We're very lucky with the staff that we have. We have a great group of men and women. I appreciate each and every one of them. We're lucky to have them, and certainly appreciate council's support in this recognition. So, thank you.
You're welcome. I'll read the proclamation and then have any council members make any comments. Is that okay? All right, good. National Public Works Week Proclamation, May 16th through May 23rd, 2021. Stronger Together, it states. Whereas public works professionals focus on infrastructure, facilities, and services that are of vital importance to sustaining resiliency and communities and to public health, high quality of life, and well-being of the people of the city of Alamosa. And whereas these infrastructure facilities and services could not be provided without the dedicated efforts of public works professionals who are engineers, managers, and employees at all levels of government and the private sector, who are responsible for rebuilding, improving, and protecting our nation's transportation, water supply, water treatment, and solid waste systems, public buildings, and other structures and facilities essential for our citizens. And whereas it is the public interest for the citizens, civic leaders, and children in the city of Alamosa to gain knowledge of and to maintain an ongoing interest and understanding of the importance of public works and public works programs in their respective communities. And whereas the year 2021 marks the 61st annual National Public Works Week sponsored by the American Public Works Association, Canadian Public Works Association, be it now resolved, I, Mayor Ty Coleman, do hereby designate the week May 16th through May 22nd, 2021 as National Public Works Week. I urge all citizens to join with representatives of the American Public Works Association, Canadian Public Works Association, and government agencies in activities, events, and ceremonies designed to pay tribute to our public works professionals, engineers, managers, and employees, and to recognize the substantial contributions they make to protecting our national health, safety, and quality of life. Witness here by Ty Coleman, done in Alamosa this 18th day of May 2021. Any comments, council members? I'll start off with Councilor Brawls, followed by Councilor Hensley, followed by Councilor Vigil, and then we'll go to the councilors on Zoom.
Yeah, I want to thank your leadership in public works. You know, every time we have a big rainstorm or hailstorm or snow, I think of public works because if you don't work, the community suffers. So thank you for your excellent leadership, and we do appreciate public works. Thank you.
I would say, Harry, that without a doubt, especially as our community, we're doing so much to grow, whether it's the downtown area, all the different areas and things like that, the infrastructure and all the things that are behind the scenes. And I think a lot of times people don't realize all the ins and outs, whether it's snow removal, whether it's a burst pipe, whether it's the roads, obviously garbage, everything. And it's all is so vital to make our city what it is. So thank you and to your whole group for what you do.
Harry, thank you to you and your staff for all that you guys do. You guys are the heartbeat of our town. We take it for granted once we get, once our water looks brown or a burst pipe or something, then we freak out and public works. So thank you to you and your staff for all you do.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Vigil. I don't see any other hands raised from the other councilor members at this time, but did either of you two have any comments at this particular time? Councilor Griego, go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I'll just echo what our fellow councilors have said, but public works is a vital part of our city team, and without their participation, this city doesn't move forward. So thank you very much, and we'll continue supporting public works and other departments also. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Griego. Okay, and I don't see any other hands raised, so I'll go ahead and tell you thank you so very much. I remember when I first became a council member, they reminded me that the public works was the heartbeat of the city. So thank you all for allowing the city, making the city function as effective and efficient as it does. Thank you. We'll come down and present this to you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Council. So we have another proclamation tonight, and it's the Arbor Week proclamation. And as council, we try to share in participating in reading the proclamation. And tonight's proclamation is going to be read by Councilor Vihil.
Thank you, Mayor.
You're welcome.
This is the celebration of Arbor Day. Whereas in 1872, J. Sterling Morton proposed to the Nebraska Board of Agriculture that a special day be set aside for the planting of trees. And whereas this holiday, called Arbor Day, was first observed with the planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska. And whereas Arbor Day is now observed throughout the nation and the world. And whereas trees can reduce the erosion of our precious topsoil by wind and water, cut heating and cooling costs, moderate the temperature, clean the air, produce life-giving oxygen, and provide habitat for wildlife. And whereas trees are a renewable resource, giving us paper, wood for our homes, fuel for our fires, and countless other wood products. And whereas trees in our city increase property values, enhance the economic vitality of business areas, and beautify our community. And whereas trees, wherever they are planted, are a source of joy and spiritual renewal. Now, therefore, Mayor Coleman and the City of Alamosa do hereby proclaim Wednesday, May 19th, 2021 as Arbor Day in the City of Alamosa, and we urge all citizens to celebrate Arbor Day and to support efforts to protect our trees and woodlands. And further, we urge all citizens to plant trees to gladden the heart and promote the well-being of this and future generations. Signed on this day by Mr. Mayor Ty Coleman.
Okay, and thank you so much. And I believe we have audience participants who are in the audience who would like to come up to the podium right now, and we're just gonna have you just say a few words.
And you have one on Zoom too. Megan Dudley's on Zoom.
Oh, Megan's on Zoom? Okay.
I'll
Okay.
bring her in too.
So, okay, all right, Jim, we'll have you start off, and if you can just say a few words, and then we'll have the other Zoom participants join in as well.
Yeah, thank you very much. Adam Moore. I live at 117 Edison Avenue, and I've been on the tree board since, I can't remember, 2013 or 2014, so a good number of years. And we'll further, I think next in the agenda, actually be doing a presentation to you guys with an update of what the tree board has been up to. But thanks for your support over the years, and especially last year when you didn't have to do some of the requirements that you needed to do to maintain the status with the COVID, and you still proceeded with those efforts. So thanks for your continued support and working through things all these years.
Thank you, Adam. Thank you so much. We may have some council comment here in a few minutes after your other members get a chance to say a few words, okay? So we have some on Zoom.
Yeah, you have Megan Dudley and Melissa Freeman.
Okay. So Megan and Melissa, feel free to join in and say a few words if you like.
Thank you, Mayor Coleman and members of the City Council. I just want to echo what Adam said. Thank you for your support. And I believe Adam has our presentation that he'll give tonight, and I'm going to chime in and help give some of those slides.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Coleman and members of City Council. This is Melissa Freeman. I'm new to the tree board, and so this is the first Arbor Day presentation that I've been to. So I'm looking forward to seeing what Adam has to say. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Okay, I have one hand raised by council. I'll start off with Councilor Hensley.
Well, I am the city council representative or member of the tree board, and this is a fantastic board. I was going to talk a little bit about all the things we do, but since it's later on the agenda, I won't say anything about that. I won't steal the thunder, but this is a great group, and just really want to tell everybody I'm happy to be part of it. And also, Andy, thank you for all you do as well.
Okay, all right, so we'll go down and present the Okay. So that brings us to the next item on the agenda is consent calendar A.
Mayor, I move that we approve consent calendar A.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, if not, Ms. Martinez, will you please take the vote?
Yes, sir. Counselor Behill?
Yes.
Mayor Coleman?
Yes.
Counselor Hensley?
Yes.
Counselor Broyles?
Yes.
Counselor Griego?
Yes.
Counselor Carson?
Yes.
The motion carried unanimously.
Thank you. Up next, we have presentations from outside agencies. The first presentation is going to be by the tree board with their annual report. Feel free to come up to the podium.
Thanks again. I'll be honest, I wasn't sure if I should keep standing up here in between or not. All right, we have a presentation to be queued up.
So the city clerk is doing that right now. We just need a few seconds.
Yes, despite the number of Zoom meetings all of us have been on in the last year, I still need a delay when I'm getting things up and going and then sharing the screen and hoping that I did it correct each time. Well, I'm certainly glad that we had the moisture yesterday because the city's already been active planting some trees for the year. So this it gives them some good moisture going into the season. And it also gives some break from some of the Parks and Rec staff from having to go around and do some watering until all the drip irrigation system that they're looking at installing gets in place. So we're, excuse me, we're all very grateful for that moisture yesterday. Okay. It's always interesting doing a presentation like this because you never know when you show up if you're going to have the TV for your notes or not. And I don't. So luckily I made the presentation so I can remember most of it. So excuse me, once again, as this is your 31st year as a Tree City USA, and it's just that opportunity to celebrate the trees and the benefits that they provide to the city, as you indicated in the proclamation that you kindly made earlier. Next slide, please. Oh, this is scrolling. This is, okay. It's just, once again, just a reminder of some of the benefits that becoming a Tree City USA and having that active efforts of maintaining the tree has. It provides that quality of life for citizens. Our parks wouldn't be the same parks if we didn't have trees around them providing shade. We wouldn't have the same nice streets if we didn't have some tree-lined streets providing the shade and also helping maintain the infrastructure, as was indicated with the Public Works Day earlier proclamation. And of course, we have people like to live in areas where there's more trees, and there's many studies that show increases in property value when you're living close to trees. All right. And as the proclamation said, it was launched in 1976, happened to be our country's bicentennial, and it has a large impact around the country. So as we can see, 135 million people live in or near Tree City, USA. So even the folks in East Alamosa and the communities elsewhere in the valley, since they come into here as a hub, is they get to see the benefit that you're providing by maintaining your trees. And then of course, it's a network of communities that you can use to ask for advice. So last year, Andy and some other tree board members attended Arbor Day remote conference and got some good ideas and thoughts on how they can implement some different projects here in the city. Next, please. And just a reminder is it is something that you have to go through the efforts to maintain. It's not done automatically every year. Andy spearheads a lot of these efforts and the online portal part by the proclamation that you did earlier today. So he'll take that information and upload it along with some other statistics we'll go over in the fall to keep the process up and going each year. And then this does say 2019, but it's always a year behind for getting all the information. But just some information on how the number within Colorado is. We have 95 of them in 2019. And so a majority of the citizens of Colorado live within a Tree City, USA area. And within the San Luis Valley, this is obviously the largest municipality, but it's also the largest Tree City, USA, of course. And just you can see all sorts of other statistics on the number of trees planted throughout the year as well in Colorado. And then just some further information to emphasize that fact is of the 95, though, we actually have about 5 each year in the state that don't renew. But most of them actually have less years of having Tree City USA status than Alamosa. However, if there's a few years where you're negligent for some reason, you could push those numbers the other direction. So we want to make sure that doesn't happen. And give me a second here. Was Meg, were you going to come on this slide or the next slide?
I can come on here if you want.
Sure, thanks.
Okay, thanks, Adam. So as Adam was saying, it is a process we have to go through in order to maintain our Tree City USA status. And so these standards that you see here on the slide, these are established by the National Arbor Day Foundation. And so we've been able to meet these standards for, I think as Adam said, 31 years now. So let's take a look at some of these. We have a tree board established, obviously. We've got a series of tree care ordinances on the books. We have a community forestry program that has a budget of at least $2 per capita. And then we have to each year perform some kind of Arbor Day observance and proclamation. Slide, please. So our current tree board membership is comprised of myself and Adam. We're the co-chairs. I'm a concerned citizen, but I'm also at Adams State University in the biology department. We've got Kevin Roybal, who's also at ASU. Melissa Freeman is our other Adams State representative. And then we have a few city staff as well. Liz Hensley, Andy Rice does a ton of work for the board. And Jeremy Arellano works for Parks and Rec. So we'd like to have his input as far as carrying out the projects. And I just would add here, you can see that most of our members are Ward 3. And so, you know, if any of the city councilors know people in other wards, we're always happy to, you know, diversify our group. So some of our current ordinances on the books, we've got, of course, our resolution in 2008 that established the tree board. We've got maintenance standards here in 307. 305 is an effort to start planting more trees around parking lots. And that's been a big push from the board the last few years, is whenever we get money, is to try to select places around parking lots that, you know, can reduce the temperature of those places, making it a little more nice looking. And then finally, we have to have some kind of a maintenance ordinance on the books. So we do, it's 14-55, just saying that, you know, nuisance trees, like hazardous trees that are maybe leaning over a road or a sidewalk, have to be maintained. We've got to have a certain amount of clearance over the roads and sidewalks as well. The third standard established by the Arbor Day Foundation is that a forestry program should have an annual budget of at least $2 per citizen. And you can see we're in the 4th or 5th bullet point down here. We're above that. We're at $3.93 per resident. So we've done well with that. Some of those costs there, tree planting and initial care, that includes the costs of the trees, the labor and equipment, you know, from the city workers' salaries spent on tree care, It includes costs like tree planting and watering. Then we have tree maintenance and management. We can see we don't have any allotted for tree removal. And then we've got a total there of just over 37,000. So some of those expenses might also be coming from other maintenance expenses like equipment rental or Arbor Day expenses from putting on some kind of public display. Obviously, we're not doing that under COVID, but in the past they have done that. And so this can also go towards tree care conferences or workshops as well. The third standard is that we need to have some kind of proclamation for Arbor Day each year. It was not required last year, but we did still have one. I believe Adam presented it. And so we're going to try to keep that momentum going. There isn't a proclamation technically required for this year, but we wanted to go ahead with it. And so we think of it as, an opportunity to engage the broader community and hopefully keep, this momentum going with tree planting and maybe some awards and ongoing education. And then finally, an Arbor Day Observance. I believe in the past, Maryland has designed it as an Arbor Week for the city. Again, this has not been required since COVID started up, but it again is a good opportunity to interact with homeowners and help educate them about tree care and kind of also introduce elements of education and increase awareness when it comes to tree planting and tree maintenance. And so, Adam, I'll turn it back over to you if you're still there.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Megan. So these are some of the statistics that need to get reported up to the Arbor Day Foundation for the renewal each year. And so you can see the number of trees were planted last year with 35, 0 trees removed, and but a lot of maintenance that occurred around the city. Without asking Parks and Rec staff, I'm betting a lot of those happened after Labor Day last year because we had a few trees that were slightly damaged. And then the number of volunteers, so this includes tree board members and then other members of the public that have been helped out at projects, planting projects and maintenance projects. And then one thing, this picture down here is just a snip taken from the Parks and Rec website. That's where the information was on the street cost share program. And so for those of you that aren't aware, as the city started putting some money aside, the residents can, if they have a space in front of their house, so with between the street and their house, maybe even between the street and the sidewalk, depending on how the location is they can fill out the application and get a cost share on having the tree purchased to put in front of there. And so what this also does is in the future, there's a growth award that the city of Alamosa has received when they go above and beyond their efforts in yearly for Tree City USA. And it's based off of a point scale. You have to get up to 10 points. And this street cost share program gives you the first year when it's new, it will give you 8 points there. So we've already strategized and have figured out where we can get the other 2 points. So we're anticipating getting this paperwork in for a growth award next year as well. So thanks for supporting this effort to help the citizens plant trees.
Okay, thank you, Adam. And Megan, thank you so much. And what we'll do now is we'll just turn it back over to council for comments. I see Councilor Brawls, and then Councilor Hensley, did you have yours on too?
No, thank you for what you do. I mean, trees look beautiful. Tell me the process of removing some trees, because I think I do see throughout the community, some trees that apparently are nuisance or overgrown, or tell me how you determine what trees are going to be removed.
The ones that are removed that we refer to in the statistics, there are ones that the city trees themselves that they have control over. So the ones in city parks themselves. So the ones between the sidewalk and the street is they're considered city trees, but they're actually the responsibility of the citizen to maintain and choose whether or not they remove them. So yeah, it's referring to the ones within the city. And so when they look at them, they're looking at trees that are healthy, whether trees are a hazard or not, whether they need to come out for changes in park layout or development as well.
And Counselor Broyles, I think another part of your question is if there's some of those trees in the right of way that maybe are creating a nuisance. If someone notices that and contacts the city, we can follow up with the property owner to let them know that they need to do some maintenance on that tree.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Counselor Vehil, followed by Counselor Hensley.
Thank you, Mayor. Adam, can you talk a little bit about the cost share program? Has it been successful so far? Are people taking advantage of it, or where are you at with that?
I would say it came off to a slow start this year. We have, I believe, I can't remember, 6 applicants, one of which happens to be a small HOA community within the city. And so they have multiple trees they're planting, which makes sense because it's still less than the number of residents that the HOA is made up of. But I think it's kind of like the sidewalk replacement program. It didn't start off with it being a gangbuster overload of number of people applying for it, but I think the program will continue to grow each year. And we've heard positive feedback so far from the residents that have participated and from the businesses it's helping support.
Thank you, Adam.
Thank you, Counselor Vehil. Counselor Hensley.
Well, and I will add to that is that I just spoke to a recipient of one of the first trees. She said she went out and bought her tree this last weekend, and she's super excited and getting ready for it to be delivered and planted and that whole thing. And when she was telling me about it, there was actually about 5 or 6 of us sort of in a group when she came up and said it. And they all asked questions about it. They go, well, how do we apply for one? And so I do think word of mouth and things like that, this is really going to take off. So I know even though it took a slow start, it's going to be very exciting. So I'm excited for it. It's just going to continue to make our community that much more beautiful.
Thank you, Counselor Hensley, and thank you for your service on that board. Counselor Grego.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to thank the new group of tree board. We've always had a great group of people that participate on the tree board, and my neighbor Marilyn was always getting everybody fired up. So, and also that everybody's from Ward 3, that makes me feel proud because they represent my ward pretty good. So I appreciate that. I did have one question and kind of follow up Council Bro's comments is one time we had some problems there in Cole Park. Some of those trees are old, and we went in there and I think we brought somebody in to look at them. What's the latest on that? I know we were doing some replanning and we were looking maybe at eventually taking some of the older ones that are hazardous out of there. So I don't know if Adam, you could address that, or Heather or somebody.
I can say that those trees are older trees and aren't as vigorous as they used to be. And so we'll probably continue to see them to slowly decline. We have continued to plant trees there each year. And this is actually a point we've discussed in the tree board is there some sort of initiative or method we could have for planting trees, especially in Cole Park, with all these events going on, people that want to contribute and give back to the park. Is there a method that we can, in a system we can establish to get that happening a little quicker? And so we're looking at methods to help replace those trees because we know they probably will not last the rest of my lifetime, all of them.
Thank you, Adam.
Okay. I don't see any other hands raised or any lights on, so I'll just close everything out. Adam, Melissa, and Megan, thank you all so very much for all the work you do in our community to make it beautiful. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks again for your support.
Okay.
Thank you, guys.
Okay. Up next, we have outside funding report from the Boys and Girls Club.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, City Council, for inviting me back up. This is my first time to do this presentation with you all where the funding isn't necessarily tied to some of the outcomes that we had done before. So what you see before you is just a more general 2020 impact report, which highlights some of the accomplishments of the Boys and Girls Club team over the past year. I have a few talking points that I want to go through as well. You know, I think what a weird year to be in the business of providing childcare and supporting young people in our community. And what a great honor to be in that position. Boys and Girls Clubs, I feel like uniquely were made for these kinds of moments and the opportunity to support youth and families. March 18th of last year, when the governor ordered everything to go close down except for essential services, we pivoted quickly. We got licensed as emergency childcare within 7 days and opened up then from March through June, providing childcare facilities for children of essential care workers. We prioritize the needs of families first. So you'll see on this impact report, a large commitment to food distribution. We took what was a $10,000 food distribution budget and spent over $65,000 last year, so over $60,000 last year in food provision to make sure that people in this community had access to food, whether they were members of the Boys and Girls Club or not. In addition to that, we shifted our services and made activity packs, little to-go packs for families, because kids were home. And there was nothing to do but sit in front of Netflix and YouTube all day. So we gave some interactive activities for young people to be able to do by themselves and with their families. We also supported through Facebook a number of the programs that we would regularly offer so that folks could do painting with Miss Fawn from the comfort of their own home. I think we had things like TikTok dances with Mr. Vince, push-up challenges with some of our staff. So there was some really cool, fun stuff that happened. We also took the opportunity to do some light case management. So we know that that's a partnership that we have with families, and we wanted to make sure that we were being good partners and listening to what their needs were. So we called families on a weekly basis at first and then monthly just to check in and make sure that they were doing okay. And we worked with other wraparound services in our community to make sure that where there were needs, we found a way to meet those needs. We also had a really robust COVID box distribution program. So we have given up over 120 individual boxes of food for folks, for families who have experienced quarantine for COVID, not just food, but supplies, other things to toilet paper, believe it or not, was a big winner in the beginning, just to make sure that they have what they need. We also are now doing vaccine equity clinics for COVID as well, just to make sure that our community continues to stay safe. During that time, one of my biggest pride points is from March through the end of June, we gave over $65,000 back to local businesses through direct purchases because this community has supported our work for so long. When it was time for us to step up, we diverted all of our grant funding to local purchases, gift cards, things like that in restaurants to make sure that those businesses had a stream of income because you all have done so much in this community to support us. We learned last year how crucial supports like the Boys and Girls Clubs in schools are in our community. We also learned how much more we need for behavioral health and wellness for all of us, young people and adults alike. I think mostly we learned how fragile all of our systems are and how important it is that all of us be interconnected and work together. And that's what I really saw through Alamosa over this last year, and I was really proud to be a part of that. The state of Colorado has currently adopted this term of building back better, and I think that's really where we're at, step in step with the city, the county, and the state of Colorado. Our priorities continue to be work-based learning programs, the social emotional wellness of young people, and teen advocacy. And you can see that where we're putting our programs and where we're getting our grant funding. We're really proud to be partners in the RISE grant with Adams State University. This is allowing us to do work-based internships in places like Hobbytown, Papa Murphy's. We have an aquaponics growing container that's being run by a 16-year-old kid. It's really incredible. And then internships over at the farm park, growing food. Grants like our new re-upped GOCO grant to get more young people access to outdoors and to build work pathways for young people in the outdoors, which we think is a super important thing for our economy. In fact, we'll be having a ribbon cutting at Friends Park on the morning of June 5th. I'd like to personally invite all of council to come out to that. You will also receive an email invitation to come to that as well. We've invested significantly in Friends Park. Gosh, Charlie, what have we done? Added like 4 new playground areas over there. It really, yeah, it's really transformed the use of that area in our community. We see people all the time with their kids, women walking the pathway in the morning, people exercising on the equipment. We weren't seeing that kind of use before. It was a very different use. We have prioritized our social emotional programs. We hired a new social emotional, our senior director of social emotional learning, Cindy Orendolph from Monte Vista Schools, who's spearheading positive action curriculum daily with every one of our members. They're in these circles. They're talking about how they feel. They're listening to other people, building empathy, which we think is such a crucial skill for young people. We're also working with the Attorney General's office on suicide prevention programs, substance abuse prevention programs like Sources of Strength. We are excited about the teen multi-use area and arcade on Main Street. You should see that opening up to the public around the 1st of July. That's our date that we're shooting for. We should have young people over there starting next week with cleanup and programming regularly for the Boys and Girls Club. We're really excited about that opportunity for work-based learning. This summer, we got a couple of flyers I'd like to hand out. So maybe Councilor Vigil and Mayor Coleman, you can share one, and Councilor Hensley and Councilor Boyles, you can share one as well. We're on with full summer programming. We've capped our enrollment to 100 members, which is 20 more than we had in 2019. And we've had pretty good demand at this point. I'd like to remind council that we keep our costs really low. It's $20 a week. For 5-day-a-week programming from 7:30 in the morning until 5:30 at night. We provide 2 snacks and work with the schools to provide a breakfast and a lunch in addition. And our regular rates are low throughout the school year. So we're $10 per month for the school year. We provide scholarships for anybody who can't afford those fees. And we wouldn't be able to be in that position without the support and partnership from folks like the City of Alamosa and many of you personally. So thank you for that. Looking forward, we have some really big projects on the horizon. We just submitted a grant proposal for $310,000 a year for the next 3 to 5 years to open up new clubs in Antonito, in Blanca Fort Garland with Sierra Grande, and to support the good work happening up in Center. We have collaborated with the city to do a CDBG grant for planning and design of a new childcare facility on our campus, because we know that's a massive need in our community. And while many of those things are outside of what we would traditionally think a Boys and Girls Club is, we really see our role in the community as supporting all of these vital needs and making sure that we're all connected in our time of need. And speaking of being connected in our time of need, I want to do a personal thank you to several folks. We have been targeted pretty hardcore from December through March with a lot of crime. We had over $12,000 of property loss on our facility. I want to thank Chief Anderson, sat down with me, and his team was really dedicated in making sure that we resolve that. I'm happy to report we haven't had any incidences on our campus for the last 2 weeks. Again, knock on wood. But big shout out to Chief Anderson and his team. Andy, Jess, and John at Parks and Rec have been fantastic to work with. A lot of the work at Friends Park has been because of their team being really dedicated and helping to put stuff in. John with the GOCO grant has been great. And some of the collaborations, like we just did the giveaway for the baseball equipment that we were able to be a part of, inline skates over at the roller skating rink for folks to use. Pretty excited about that too. I want to give a shout out to Deacon, who really helped us with a lot of our planning, design, and making sure that we're following all of those codes he was great to work with. And then, of course, a shout out to Heather, who meets with me every couple of months, and we can talk about ways that we can align our work. And we imagine that partnership just getting stronger. So thank you for all of your support. I really appreciate it.
Okay, thank you, Aaron, but don't leave yet. I'm quite sure
Yeah.
council has some comments. We'll start off with Councilor Hensley, followed by Councilor Brawls.
Aaron, without a doubt, you've done a phenomenal job, you and your team. And you're right, it is a total collaborative effort. And I know that the more partnerships there are and the more united, it makes Boys and Girls Club even stronger. I tend to be one of those people, I look at the bright side of things. And so obviously COVID was a very dark time, you know, as far as this last year, but there's good things that have come out of it. And a lot of like what you show us that you've done and things like that, that have made a huge difference. And so sometimes when things hit rock bottom, it's things like this that really shine. And we also then see in how much we appreciate it. And so I look at that as a good that came out of this as well. And as a side note, I take my granddaughters to pretty much every park in Alamosa. We actually have so many parks, but I will tell you, Friends Park is their favorite. So we tend to go there a little more often. But yes, we do visit all the parks, but you've done a phenomenal job there as well. So thanks for everything you do.
Thank you, Councilor Hensley.
Yeah, thank you, Aaron, for
Thank
your
you,
leadership
Councilor.
and everything going on at the Boys and Girls Club. It's been neat to watch how it's evolved over the years. And it keeps getting better and better, and the service keeps getting better and better. You know, you actually talk with kids who have grown up now, and they're very thankful for what the Boys and Girls Club did. So, you know, I think it plays a very key role in our community, and we take our hats off to you and for your leadership. So thanks again.
Yeah, thank you, Councilor Boyles. It doesn't, it's not missed on me that your name is on the plaque founding our building in 1999. So thanks for your longstanding support.
Yeah, and I might want to add that, you know, it was John and Edna Smith that donated the land.
That's right. Yep.
Of course, I encouraged them because they were a customer to bank, but that all started it off, didn't it? And we appreciate their donation. They've since passed on, but they were key to getting the land going. So again, a long-standing history there, and it's evolving well. So thanks again.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Brawls. Councilor Vigil.
Thank you, Mayor. Aaron, and to all your team, thank you for everything you've done. You've taken this club to a whole different level. Yes, COVID was a dark time, but a lot of people stepped up across the country, and you and your group stepped up majorly for Alamosa. So just thank you for all you've done.
Thank you, Councilor Vigil.
Okay, we're gonna go to our virtual council members. We have Councilor Carson with his hand raised.
I'd just like to tell you, Aaron, that I appreciate personally what you've done for this community since you've come on. You guys, like Councilor Beal just said, you guys have gone to a whole different level in the last few years. And I think at times we take for granted as a community how important Boys and Girls Club is and how vital you guys are, you know. And so I just want to, you know, commend you on what you guys do, what you did through COVID. Like you said, some of the stuff that you guys have stepped up and done is phenomenal. And you know, I can't say enough how important you guys are and what you guys do for this community. So, you know, my hat's off to you. And you know, as council, we support you all the time. And so, thank you, Aaron, for what you do, and thank you for keeping it moving forward. And I appreciate the teen center and everything you guys are, you know, all the reaching out to the different communities. Like I say, that's just another example of what you guys are doing. You guys are rocking and rolling constantly. So thank you so much.
Thanks, Councilor Carson. And tell that guy he has to be 5 to sign up.
I know he's already chomping at the bit. This kid probably already holds a world record for the most Zoom meetings attended by anyone under 6 months old. But yeah, he's ready.
Thank you, Councilor
Virtual
Carson.
world. He's over the virtual world.
Thank you, Councilor Carson. Councilor Grego.
Thank you, Mayor. Aaron, I don't even know where to begin with, but for me, it's been such a big honor because I'm still here and we're the ones who pretty much started this program and the success that this program has had, you know, and back then we wanted to do something for our kids and our youth, and the city remaining as a partner with the Boys and Girls Club. It was so important that this thing continue to move forward and keep going. And what you've done, you took an area back there that, as Councilor Broyle said, was an old lettuce packing deal, and you took that place, turned it into the Friends Park, and what you've done out there is incredible. The kids, that one little Zoom deal that they zoomed down on, that thing, I don't know how you even maintain that, because that thing is always full, and what you've done out there, there was a lot of people, your neighbors out there used to be scared because there was some drug problems out there, and you took it and you cleaned it up and you continue to clean it up. I feel bad that there still is some problems out there, but we'll resolve that. But thank you for what you do for the community and for our kids, for our future council people that are probably eventually going to come from there, and what you do is incredible. And that teen, I think that idea of the teen downtown is going to be incredible, because kids want to break away from little kids and they want to do stuff. And I think that'll be a real great program. So Aaron, thank you so much for you and your staff, all you do. And I hope that the city continues to support this program. It's a great program. And I guess there's not even enough words for me to say how I feel. So thank you, Aaron.
Thanks, Charlie. That means a lot. If you guys want to see a site, you should watch Charlie Griego move some full-size pool tables, because that's a real thing. He helped move some of the pool tables into the new teen center a couple weeks ago.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Griego. I don't see any other lights on or either hands raised, so I'll go ahead and wrap things up. Aaron, thank you and your staff. You all do amazing work in our community, and I would like to thank you for the lessons that you teach the young people. I was reading this quote here by Cynthia, and it says, "The Boys and Girls Club taught me how to love myself and not to look for happiness in other people." I know people in their 50s, 60s, and 70 years of age who have not learned that lesson. For them to learn that type of lesson, being a part of an organization like yours is going to change their life tremendously over their lifetime. And then I would like to thank you for the conscious effort of you and your organization intentionally spending the $65,000 back in our community with your purchases to make sure that we're able to build back better in our rural community. So keep up the great work.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
You're welcome.
I have a card that several of our members signed. I'd like to give to the city manager. Maybe you can pass me.
Okay, so we're going to move on down the agenda, and we have board commissions business, Alamosa Housing Authority board appointment. Ms. Martinez.
Okay, so this one is you're gonna appoint one applicant to the Alamosa Housing Authority Board. So this is technically not under us, but you guys do appoint the members. So you have requested to do it the same process as we do for other boards. You interviewed two applicants, Don Malgares and Dale Salazar, and you will vote for them by ballot. So I did put the ballots up on your screens. I think I'm only missing one from Councilor Vigil. So if you haven't submitted, if you can submit your thing.
Okay.
Okay, and then of course, Councilor Daniel didn't vote, so it's the 6 of you. And after those votes came in, it looks like Don Malgares is who you are appointing. So if you can make a motion for that.
Okay.
I'll move.
So, Councilor Hensley.
So I'll go ahead and move to have Don Malgares appointed to the Housing Authority Board. I guess I would like to add, though, we do really appreciate both candidates. We couldn't do what we do without everybody showing their support and being part of the boards and being part of our community.
Second.
Thank you, Councilor Hensley. Thank you, Councilor Vigil. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If so, please raise your hand or turn on your lights. Okay, any discussion? You're good. Okay.
Okay, so Counselor Vihil,
Wait.
Mayor Coleman,
Yes.
Counselor Hensley,
Yes.
Counselor Broyles,
Yes.
Counselor Griego,
Yes.
Counselor Carson.
Yes.
The motion carried unanimously.
Okay, thank you. All right, council, way to go. So we're gonna go on down to a business brought forward by city staff, public works presentation, and approval of the draft housing action plan.
Thank you, Mayor. We do have a presentation from Willa, who is the consultant on this project. Deacon, I didn't know before we turn it over to Willa, if you wanted to cover any of the information in the council communication, or if you wanted me to.
I'll give just a quick little 30-second summary. So the city began talking about our housing issues about a year ago. I know for certain Mayor Coleman will remember our Building Better Places conference we attended, and really that set the stage for a lot of the things that we've been doing over the last year. And I think the key takeaway from that, at least for me personally, was jobs follow people, and we want to build a community where people want to be. And that includes economic development. That also includes housing choices that people can afford and want to live in. So with that, there's been a lot of discussion both with community members, with a lot of stakeholder groups, and it's we've assessed all of our needs and really come to this draft action plan. What can we do about it? Who's doing the things well in our community, and how can we be a supportive agency towards them as well? So with that.
And I just want to thank the Colorado Health Foundation and CHAPA, as well as DOLA, because without those supporters, we wouldn't have been able to do the in-depth plan that we had, in addition to doing an action plan, which is above and beyond just doing an assessment of the data. And so we've been so grateful to be able to work with Lola and her team to really give us a jumping off point on what we need to focus on from a housing perspective. And with that, we can turn it over to Willa.
Good evening, thank you. So it's my pleasure this evening to present, well, it's really the opportunity for discussion around the draft action plan that was included in your packet. And as a reminder, kind of where we've been, we published the housing needs assessment in January of 2021, presented those findings to the council at that time. And then since then, we've surveyed the community on what solutions people feel would be a good fit in Alamosa, what we should be doing more of. We've had our housing working group giving us a lot of feedback. For a moment there, I had them meeting like twice a week, I think. And so they've given a ton of time and feedback on how we prioritize the actions, how we organize the report, what information is most essential, and who's doing what and when. All the things that kind of make up the substance of the action plan.
And Willa, I'm sorry to interrupt. So some of the people here in person are having trouble hearing you. It's a little mumbled. So
Okay.
if the closer you can get to that microphone and project
Sure.
your voice.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, we'll give that a try. Thank you so much. So then once we had a good outline of our action plan, we did a public workshop, and I know many of you participated in that. And we gathered a number of major themes that I'll go over. Once we started to incorporate those in the plan, then we went out to many of the key stakeholders, the Economic Development Committee, the Homeless Coalition, the Housing Authority, the La Puente Board, and Energy Resource Center, because these are a lot of our key partners for the city in implementing the plan. So here we are tonight with a draft in front of you. Our intent then is that it would be brought back for final action by council on June 2nd. How's the audio?
That's better. Just keep projecting the voice.
Okay. So here are the themes of our outreach for what we heard as we were having all of these various meetings and gathering feedback. Make the goals more clear and specific. So we have that in front. We'll have that in front of you tonight. refine this understanding about the capital gap. Why is it that our market isn't responding to this housing need, and why has that gap been growing over time? So that's included in the document now. What about the history of zoning in Alamosa, and sort of how have we gotten into where we are as a community over time, and what are the things that we can do in our zoning to make housing opportunities better? Clarifying the city role. So this was a really crux issue at that public workshop. The concern that the city not be in the development business, but that we be a strong partner to support and facilitate housing. So, kind of making more clear, here are the things the city is looking to take on, and here are the things that we see as other people's roles. Clarifying the funding. And this is kind of an important piece, because we know there are a lot of outside funding sources that will be well aligned with a lot of the things you want to do in your action plan, and you're very well positioned to compete for funds and bring in funds. But there's also some initiatives here that may require local funding and staffing, just because those outside sources, their requirements don't always match your conditions and what you want to do. So we think the majority of funding to implement the actions here would come from outside sources, but there may from time to time be specific asks of this council. There is not a dedicated funding source or a housing fund contemplated at this time. Then we really dug into two of the strategies to refine them in the sort of the second half of the action plan process, and those were supportive housing and the mobile home strategies. We got a lot of really good feedback from our various stakeholders to make those stronger and more clear. We also refined the programs to grow, because this is something that was, just in need of nailing down a lot more of the details of, well, how much do we want to grow? What are the barriers to growth? What would it look like if we were successful? We added our agency partnerships and our funding ideas throughout the document to just strengthen and make those more clear. And then we did a couple just administrative things in terms of trying to make our graphics more consistent and clear, and adding the survey results, the area median income data, and a glossary to unpack all the acronyms that we use in the report, just so that this can be truly, while it relies upon the findings of the housing assessment, it can be its own standalone document. So that's where we're at now. And we had, and sorry, I actually wanted to talk about the, I got my slides out of order. So I want to show you these more specific production goals. To get your feedback on that. And then also, well, I'll talk about those first. So the production goal that we, the committee came to a kind of a consensus around was, we'd like to try to build 350 new homes by 2026. But we want to be very clear that we haven't achieved this goal if all of those homes were at a luxury price point. So we wanted to be clear about the priority level and kind of the ranges, and give some guidance around how we might count, measure ourselves against these various sort of buckets. So we felt and this was based on the community feedback, the city's feedback, and the public outreach, but that the highest priorities are supportive housing, rentals serving up to 60% AMI, and for sale priced up to 80% AMI, and that we would shoot for 100 to 200 units in that range, and so forth. So sort of as you go down in priority level, the price of the housing is going up, because those are that level 3 tier is where the market is closer to being able to provide the housing you need. So it needs less partnerships, less participation from the city. And then corresponding with this, these are the same priority levels and types of housing, but we spent some time thinking about what are all the different tools the city might be able to bring to the table in those, when a housing development opportunity comes along that's really aligned with the things we hope to achieve with this action plan. okay, now we have this opportunity in front of us. How do we participate as a partner? And how do we sift through those other requests from developers that might be asking for the sun, the moon, and the stars, but that might not really be aligned with our housing goals? So this document, as part of the housing action plan, hopefully is something you could operationalize when those kind of requests come in. So I'm gonna pause there. Oh, it sounds like maybe Heather.
Sorry, Willa, you do fade in and out. So I don't know if that's just your microphone or if your voice fluctuates. So just make sure you keep talking loud.
Okay, it's my mic. I think I'm gonna get a new one. So so where I'd like to stop and just open this for discussion is, does the council have any feedback or desired changes for the plan overall?
And I will note for council, as you think about this, is we did have the overall plan attached to the agenda. I'm not sure how many had time to review that. So the items that Willa was reviewing was, some of the changes from the public presentation that you attended as a work session.
So Heather, are you on the council comments right now?
So if you did have time to review that plan or some of the items that Willa just changed, do you have any feedback for us?
Okay, we got Councilor Vigil with his hand raised, and if Councilor Carson or Councilor Grego have any comments, raise your hands now, and then I'll recognize you. Go ahead, Councilor Vigil.
Thank you, Mayor. So that public outreach was April 17th or so, middle of April, whenever. But a lot of us were on there, and I think one of the biggest takeaways for me was there was a lot of talk in the community, and I'm glad you guys brought it up. The city of Alamosa is not going to pay for housing. We're not going to build houses for anybody. That's not happening. So I'm glad that's out there, and it needs to be communicated again and again. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Vigil. Councilor Brawls, follow, and then we'll go to the Zoom councilor members. Councilor Brawls and Councilor Hensley.
Yeah, I've had two builders contact me concerned about the city being involved in building homes. And so I would have a concern on the action plan that be an objective of the city to build homes. I can see the city, contributing to down payment assistance or sidewalk assistance or water tap fees, but I guess I'd be against the city actually building homes. So that's my concern. I can't think of a situation where the city would want to build homes and compete with private contractors.
So you're in luck, and so are the individuals calling you. That's not part of the plan.
Okay.
So the plan really does break down different types of programs to grow that our current partners are doing. It also breaks out where there's different gaps for different levels of housing and what would be an appropriate role for the city. And definitely short term, we don't have that history or technical capacity to be extremely aggressive. Definitely not building homes. Long term, it does talk about, do we want to do more from an incentive perspective? But even then, it's not talking about necessarily building homes. It's about getting the right partners to the table who will be willing to go at those key areas where the market's not serving. And so I think the other concern that comes through to me as you're talking is these are focused on areas where the market is not serving. It's not to create a competition issue where the market's already serving those areas. And so it's very focused on that as well. But again, the plan is not for the city to be building housing. It is, how can we leverage the city to get grants or funding or other pieces of the puzzle, but not to build houses.
Okay, I'd agree with that, so thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Brawls. Councilor Hensley.
So I like how this has been very data driven. And so with that idea of, besides the data, having those open forums and things like that, and without a doubt, probably supports, I mean, obviously gave us new light to some hypothesis, but supports some of the hypothesis as well. And I think it is important to be proactive because we could get into a situation being from California and knowing what California went through in the sense of there just wasn't housing. And it's an issue that is affecting the whole state, and like it's starting to happen here in Colorado. So I think for our community to be able to look at that and be proactive to it as much as we can is really important.
Thank you, Councilor Hensley. Councilor Carson.
I just wanted to tell Heather and Willa and city staff, thank you guys. This report is very thorough, and I thought it did explain those target areas pretty good. It is very long, so I haven't gone through the whole thing. I've skimmed it. But I did appreciate the fact that we are targeting areas that aren't being served. I think it's fairly clear in the report. So, and to address the comments about the public's concern, I've been approached a lot too, fairly aggressively. So just to put that out there, that this is public information. It's a public document. So citizens do have the opportunity to get in there and look at it and try to understand some of this. And that does always help. And I'm conveying this to our constituency. That does always help with the rumor and the word on the street stuff. And it can cut down in some of that animosity that we get towards some of these projects. Because as a city, we do have to incentivize some of these builders. We do have to incentivize some of these people that want to create, developments and things like that, because we are hurting pretty bad for housing. Heather and I talked about this briefly today, but you get into some of the prices of housing right now that's available for people. It's almost, like it's unreal. It's unreal how expensive some of the housing is here. And so we do have to target that. So I just wanted to say thank you guys again for the people out there. It is a very lengthy document, but it's pretty clear in what it's targeting. So I advise people to take a look at it. Thank you guys. It's very needed and appreciate it.
Thank you, Councilor Carson. Councilor Griego.
Thank you, Mayor. I wanted to make one comment and then I had a question. My comment, I agree that the city shouldn't be in building houses, but I think it's so important that they get involved and support people like Colorado Roll Housing. I remember when Al Gold first came here, he wanted to go into communities, and for some reason they didn't want those houses being built. And what they did was took areas in our community that were dump sites and turn them into beautiful subdivisions. So I think it's so important that we support these groups like that want to come in and do some building and stuff, and would help us with this study. The question I had was, you talk about 350 new homes by 2026. How are we going to approach? Is that just the city of Alamosa or Alamosa County also, or can you please elaborate on that, Wilma, please?
Absolutely. So that is for the city. And that is historically, we've been doing about 44 new homes a year as our building permit rate. So we looked at, okay, we know we're not going to meet, we know it's probably not realistic to go for the whole 515 units that the needs assessment found we needed in 5 years. But the committee strongly agreed we should through all these different actions in the action plan, we hope that we could do better than we've been doing in the past. So it was kind of a find the middle ground kind of goal.
And Councilor Griego, so it actually has it kind of by year to incrementally step it up. So it feels a little bit more reasonable. And then the other part is, correct me if I'm wrong, Deacon or Willa, but it's units, not necessarily houses. Right. So like an apartment complex coming in, then obviously takes care of more of those units than a single family home. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yep. And it actually, we go one step further to say we're expecting about 50-50 homes for sale and homes for rent. or, it might be apartments or townhouses or some combination of all of those different kinds of houses.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
You're welcome. Thank you, Counselor Griego. Okay.
Mayor,
Yes, go
I'd
ahead.
like to make one more comment real quick, and
Sure.
this may be kind of I think it needs to be said. In being approached by some of these people that have come at me for sure, complaining about, the city shouldn't be involved in building houses, and I had several of them come at me kind of from the angle that they didn't want, some of these projects like these housing developments, like Charlie said. I don't know, what they experienced back in the day, like Charlie said, but I saw some of that same kind of tone when they were telling me. And so, I just want people to be mindful of that when we're trying to do these projects and when we're trying to fill these housing gaps. Try to let go of the classism a little bit. We're all people. We all have the same needs. We all need homes and roofs over our head. And I think that we got to keep in mind that we all can't afford a $300,000 home. So, keep that in mind. And that's again, to people that are coming at it from a weird angle. I just got kind of I was kind of saddened by some of the comments that people told me. So I just want people to keep that in mind. We all have this need. And so as a community, we have to support this need moving forward and keep in mind that we're all not at the same levels. And if we don't address it, we're going to make it worse. So thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Counselor Carson. Ms. Brooks.
And there may be further discussion, but I did want to let council know that there might be two kind of different directions. So on the slides, it showed approval of the plan at the next agenda, which is something we can definitely do. We also wrote this and posted it if you wanted to approve it tonight. So if you have the option if you want to approve it tonight, or if you want some additional time, we can put it on the consent agenda at the next agenda as well. So it was written both ways, and it's covered from a posting perspective for the public.
Okay, I'll see what council would like to do. I'll start off with the council members down here to tell me what your thoughts are. Councilor Hensley, then followed by Councilor Vigil, then Councilor Brawls.
All right, we'll see where this goes. So I'll go ahead and make a motion that we approve the draft housing action plan as presented.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. I see Councilor Carson has his hand up and Councilor Griego. So we'll open it up for discussion. Any comments? Is that what your hands are up for?
I was going to make a motion. So
okay,
I had a comment.
Good. Okay, Councilor Griego.
Yeah, I guess, do we have this out there so the community can look at it? Do we have it at the library or somewhere? Not everybody has computers or stuff like that where people can look at. Is there a hard copy somewhere where they can go through it and look at it?
So it has been available. It's been attached to the agenda since Friday. We also have the assessment and draft some of the presentations that we've done publicly on the website as well. If anyone would have contacted us needing a copy, we could have provided that. Once we have approved versions, then we can make a copy to have placed in the library.
Because I think it's so important that the community get to look at stuff like that before we just go ahead and make a motion and approve it. It's a good program, don't get me wrong, but I think the involvement of the community needs to be in there. And I know you've had it putting this whole program together, but I feel that, and the motion's already been made and seconded, but I think it's so important that we're not rushing to approve this, that people get an opportunity to even make some comment, to go through it and even contact us as a representative to see if they have any desires of change or something, So.
And I just also want to remind council that the changes from when we had the public meeting and the public participated in the draft plan were the minor ones that Willa presented tonight. So it was mostly further clarification on the points that was presented during that public meeting with the public comments. Not to say you guys decide not to vote on it. I just want to make sure we don't forget that we did have that meeting.
Okay, thank you.
So have we done everything within the council powers to present it to the public to where we feel that we've abided by the requirements, Ms. Brooks?
All requirements have been met. It's a matter of how long do you want to have this open from a public comment perspective.
Okay, Councilor Brawls?
Yeah, I would like to give it another couple of weeks. I think we're rushing just a little bit, unless there's a time-sensitive reason why we have to pass it tonight.
No, and waiting till next week is fine. I don't think we want to delay it too much because there is grant funding and other things coming down and we want to start mobilizing to do the implementation.
But I think this meeting I'm putting out to the public, please look at the plan, is important. So advertise just a little bit more. And so if anybody comes, we can say, hey, we gave you plenty of time to look at it.
Correct.
Okay, so is that,
Mayor, can
we
I
have
make
a motion? Go ahead. I see your, go ahead.
I appreciate the motion and I appreciate everybody's thoughts, but I just, I'd really, and this is kind of a no comment, but I'd really like to be unified in this. So, I guess it's a toss for me if we want to wait 2 weeks. So I just wanted to put that out there. I'm fine either way.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Carson. So when would this be available back to to vote on it again, Ms. Brooks?
We'll have it on your consent agenda at your next meeting, the first meeting in June, if that's the way the vote goes.
Okay, Councilor Vigil wanted to make a comment real quick. Okay. All right, Councilor Brawls, did you have a comment? Okay, all right, so.
I have a comment.
I had
Go
one.
ahead.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Councilor Hensley.
So I'm okay. Honestly, I'm not necessarily where it has to go through today. So if we feel comfortable doing this in 2 weeks and it allows then everybody to take a look at it and really do the due diligence, I'm totally fine of taking back my motion and we'll just wait for 2 weeks.
My only request of council is if you do read it and have some feedback, please don't wait till the meeting. We'd like to be able to make any changes based on feedback prior to the meeting so we have a complete document.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Brooks. Councilor Griego?
Yeah, in the meantime, is there a way that we can get this out there some way or get at least people know that there's a hard copy somewhere or something where they can review it and look at it so they can maybe approach us counselors and say, hey, well, we agree with this, we disagree with that, and just so we give them the opportunity to look at it.
Certainly. So we'll do our regular promotion, which is the social media, the press release, all of that kind of stuff. It will be on the website. And then we'll add language that if someone needs a hard copy, that they can contact the Public Works Department to receive a hard copy.
Thank you.
Okay, so Councilor Hensley has removed her motion and assume the second is removed too. So we'll just bring that up at the next meeting. Okay. All right. So that brings us to the next item on the agenda. That brings us to the first reading of ordinance number 7-2021 and ordinance rezoning 26-225.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Welcome.
Ordinance 7-2021 is for the rezoning of 26 acres, just northwest of the Maroon Drive and Clark intersection. So it's a big vacant area kind of across the street from where the mobile home park is. Many of you have probably noticed it's been vacant for an awfully long time. It was brought into the city in 2000 with the Carroll annexation, and it was zoned commercial business at that time. The applicants wish to rezone the property to mixed use, which retains a lot of kind of the commercial flexibilities as far as our land use code goes, but also opens up more opportunities for residential development as well, ranging from multifamily housing, single family dwellings, quite a few different things. The comp plan does show this area as being a area that can be rezoned and as mixed use. And really mixed use is kind of a very good use for that area as a buffer between the high school and the commercial areas kind of towards Walmart. So anytime any rezone request comes forward, it's evaluated upon certain criteria. Those criteria have been met. This request was heard by Planning Commission on April 28th or thereabouts. Planning Commission gave a unanimous recommendation and staff fully supports the request as well.
Okay, thank you so very much.
And I just want to say, and I'm sorry if Deacon covered this, we were having screen issues. This is very consistent with the work session that council held prior to COVID in regards to rezoning some of the commercial to the multi-use. So if Deacon covered that, I'm sorry, but I just wanted to make sure we reiterate that.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Brooks. And thank you, Deacon. So I'll turn it back over. Oh, Councilor Vijo.
Thank you, Mayor. The planning commission unanimously went with this. This is part of our plan. I think we should go ahead and do it. So I'm going to move that we approve ordinance number 7-2021 on the first reading and set it for a public hearing on June 2nd or soon thereafter.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Don't see any hands raised or lights on. So Ms. Martinez, will you please take the vote?
Yes, sir. Counselor Broyles?
Yes.
Counselor Hensley?
Yes.
Mayor Coleman?
Yes.
Counselor Vijo?
Yes.
Counselor Carson?
Yes.
Counselor Griego?
Yes.
The motion carried unanimously.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Deacon. Appreciate it. Cool. That brings us down to the next item on the agenda on the Parks and Recreation, public hearing and second reading of ordinance number 6-2021, an ordinance approving an intergovernmental agreement with Alamosa High School for the use of Lee Field.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. I remembered how to turn the mic on. That's good. Pleased to bring before you the second reading of ordinance 6-2021. Before I forget, Athletic Director Eric Melgoza might be in the Zoom, so keep an eye out for that and if we get to the public hearing. Quick review, right? This is our IGA with the district to create a home field for the Mean Moose softball program. Just a real win-win, could lead to improvements. It clarifies responsibilities, make sure the agreement is professional nature. And with that, if you have any questions, or I couldn't remember if I asked that before the hearing or after or what, so just let me know, please.
So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and open it up for a public hearing, and I see Mr. Melgoza on the Zoom, and we'll allow him to make some comments if that's okay, and then see if anyone else in the audience would like to make any comments or anyone else on Zoom would like to make any comments. Okay, how you doing, Mr. Melgoza? It's good to see you. We're opening it up. I will officially open it up for a public hearing.
I'm doing well. Thank you, Mayor.
Good. If you have any comments at this time in regards to this ordinance, this is the time to make a few comments.
I just think this would be a great opportunity for the high school, for the city to kind of collaborate and really help build our youth program in the sport of softball. I think Lee 4 is a great complex for us to utilize that. As far as the high school building a new softball field, it probably wouldn't work, cost-wise. So I think if we can work together on this, I know I've talked to Andy about some improvements to it that I believe the district would kind of flip the bill, or we could figure out how to do it together. I think it'd be a great opportunity and just get our kids to play softball, not only during the school year, but build a feeder program through our Parks and Rec.
Okay, well, thank you, Mr. Melgoza, for joining us in the public hearing, and thank you for sharing that helpful input. We're going to go ahead and see if there's anyone else in the Zoom audience who would like to make comments during this public hearing time. Ms. Martinez, will you give them instructions of how to unmute themselves?
Yeah, if you're on the Zoom hearing right now and you want to speak, just use the raise your hand feature and I'll bring you into the meeting to speak.
Okay, I don't see any hands raised for Zoom, so we'll go back to the audience to see if anyone else in the audience would like to make any comments in regards to this before we close the public hearing and bring it back to council. Okay. Would you like to make some comments? No. Okay. All right. Thank you. Okay. So we'll go ahead and close the public hearing and bring it back to council for their comments and also direction. Okay. Thank you all so very much. Appreciate it. Okay. Councilor Brawls and then Councilor Vigil.
I was just gonna say, I don't have any problem with moving forward.
All right. Thank you. Councilor Vigil.
I think this is a great partnership with the school district. We're always trying to find ways to work with them. It's a great way to grow that softball program. Just a question, will practice and games be held here?
I'd probably defer to Mr. Melgoza on that, but I would think so.
Yes, practice and games would be held there.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Melgoza. So I think we should go ahead with it, and I would move.
I had a comment. Go ahead, move.
Go ahead, Grego.
No, go ahead and make your motion.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to echo what you just said. You know, I think it's very important that the city partner with other groups like the school district and stuff on programs, especially for our youth and stuff. So I think, you know, and even by having games out there and stuff, I think that's like economic development for the city, bringing all those people coming in, you know, to compete and stuff. So I agree. We've been trying to do this stuff for a long time, and I'm glad it's finally happening. Go ahead, Councilor Vigil.
Thank you, sir. I move that we approve ordinance number 6-2021.
Second it.
We have a motion and a second. And any further discussion? Any lights on or hands raised? Nope. Mr. Melgoza and Andy, thank you all so very much for collaborating to make this possible. Looking forward to it. And Mr. Melgoza, thank you for your efforts that you're doing at the school district. All right. So Ms. Martinez, will you please take the vote?
Yes, sir. Counselor Griego,
Yes.
Counselor Carson,
Yes.
Counselor Vigil. Yes. Mayor Coleman.
Yes.
Counselor Hensley.
Yes.
Counselor Broyles.
Yes.
The motion carried unanimously.
Good job. Thank you, council. Thank you, everybody. Okay, that brings us to the next item, city manager legal discussion on the American Rescue Plan funding.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm sorry I had to put this on the agenda. I know when we come together in a work session and we have really good discussion and you know, and compromise and those types of things, that once we're done and something's settled, to have it come back again for some more discussion, it almost feels like we're opening a can of worms potentially. So I'm going to try to walk us through this so I can be focused on where we ended from a consensus perspective and the few minor changes that council may want to consider. The changes, though, are of a significance that it is warranted that we have this discussion in a public meeting. And so
and Heather, if you don't mind, I just want to send some clear instructions to council, if you all don't mind. Let her get through the presentation entirely, and then we'll open it up for comments, and I'll make sure everybody has an opportunity to speak. Please don't interrupt. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. So what I'll do is a screen share here in a second on the 3 different options, but there is one thing that has changed that impacts all 3 options. It's a little bit sad, but good as well. In that Lisa has been very active in staying engaged on webinars and learning opportunities related to this funding. And one that she attended this week made it clear that we cannot look at revenue recovery by fund. We knew we definitely could not do it by line items, but we thought we could do it by rec fund, enterprise fund, general fund, which meant that we had in there $150,000 for revenue recovery for the rec fund. We cannot do it. It's a total number. And so that took any revenue recovery off the table. So I did have to remove that $150,000 for all 3 options. I'm not going to touch on that when we get there. And give me 1 second here. This whole drag and do this stuff. I don't even know if you can see it if it's big enough. Let me see if I can get it bigger. There we go. So this first option that I want to review with council is what I'm calling where we ended the night after the work session from a consensus perspective. So I kind of cleaned up the categories, but essentially everything is the same. But what we did do is we added this co-responder program. We still need to cost it out better, but we decided on a placeholder of about 250,000, which means this water treatment plant chemical room, I reduced the amount that ARPA would cover down to 250,000. Now, again, the project's still going to get done because it's covered in the CIP, but the amount that ARPA will cover is reduced down to 250,000. What that changes following the consensus we had from the work session is it does lower a little bit the money we are being able to reallocate from an enterprise fund perspective. So I did lower that reserve for the development and housing reserve down to 800,000. And I know there was at least one comment related to the initial 1 million kind of maybe felt like too much. So the 800 maybe feels a little bit better. I didn't want to take the full amount just in case there's other things that come up in the enterprise and we need some of that flexibility. So that is where we ended the night following the work session. You might recall Councilor Carson talked about wanting to do something related to homeless employment. I reminded council, you guys had already given direction to do that. What I didn't do in a very snappy manner that night was to connect the dots that while council had given direction, it was going to be coming out of the general fund and it was currently unfunded. So what this option 2, the only thing that's added is 50,000 to pay for a homeless work program. That's about 10,000 a year through 2026. So it does reduce down a little bit that water treatment plant use from ARPA, but we still have 800 from a development reserve fund. So really this option 2, the only change from the consensus is adding that 50,000. The one that's really prompting tonight though is the brainchild of our city attorney. You might remember when I first started talking, we have this huge unfunded work on the levy hanging over our heads. But it just, one, the levy does not qualify under ARPA, and it comes out of the general fund, not the enterprise fund. So I was really, really disappointed that we weren't able to find a way to do that. The city attorney reminded me that the financing we did for our water augmentation plan said that if any of those funds are left over from the water augmentation plan, they can be used for 3 purposes: the levy, water, wastewater lines, and lift stations. And so the only place that there's an intersection between ARPA and the levy is, and that financing is the storage. So the other parts of the water augmentation plan, we do not think qualify under ARPA, but the water storage does. And so if we take about 500,000 of that for that, then that can free up 500,000 to go into reserve to work on the levy, to leverage for grants, and to hopefully get a significant chunk. It won't get everything done, but a significant chunk if leveraged with grants of that levy project done. So what adding that 500 does is it took off using ARPA for the chemical room. Again, the chemical room will still get done, just not funded through ARPA. And I reduced down that aeration system from the full 700 down to 375. But if we do this option, we have identified a way to try to leverage this in a manner to get something that we potentially might have even had to go to voters for, depending on how expensive that levy project was going to be. It still also allows us to have 400,000 in that development and housing reserve. So we still have a lot of those priorities in this option. And so that's what's before council tonight to give direction on which option you are comfortable with.
Thank you. Ms. Brooks, so that we can have just, is this the last option right here, the final option? That's the final one. So is it 3 options tonight that we have a choice to choose from?
It is, and if you're looking for a staff recommendation, it is this third option that provides 500 towards the water augmentation plan to free up for the levy.
Okay, thank you for the clarification. Okay, so let me see.
You got the people in the Zoom.
Give me 1 second. I need to,
Can't see you.
yeah, give me 1 second. Let me get my screen back.
I'm gonna start off
There
with
you
Zoom
go.
this time, okay, everybody? We'll start off with the Zoom council members. We'll start off with Counselor Carson, followed by Counselor Griego. Go ahead.
I went through this pretty thoroughly today, so I'm fine. If people have comments or questions, I didn't really want to go down a rabbit hole with this. The changes aren't too significant. So I was going to make a motion or give guidance that I think we move forward with option 3. So that was my comment. I didn't know if Charlie had to Charlie wanted to further elaborate, but I personally think that we should go with option 3. So I'll just leave it at that.
Thank you, Counselor Carson. Counselor Griego.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. And the people here on Zoom, I couldn't see what the city manager had up there as options, so we couldn't see it here. But I wanted to further elaborate on this mental health deal that we discussed, that where they were going to bring somebody in and help the police department with mental health. Can you further talk about that and see how that works?
Sure. So as a reminder, the council spent some time during the work session on that, and there was consensus, not unanimous, but consensus, more than 4, to put that item in as direction from council. That is called a co-responder program. We would contract with a community partner to hire a mental health professional. The chief has since had time to go back and look at some of the initial numbers of us tracking what the demand would be. And as of right now, it's about every other day that we do get a type of call that would warrant a mental health professional. But again, in addition to relieving that 3 to 5 hours of the officer's time on that type of call, it's also that follow-up and case management that our officers are never going to be providing. Additionally, and unfortunately, this week we had a very good example of why having a mental health professional would be valuable, in that we had a standoff situation that lasted longer than maybe it would have needed to. We put in a call for a mental health professional, but unfortunately none were available. And finally, after an hour and a half, our officers were able to talk the individual down to surrendering. So the current availability of the mental health for those types of instances does not really meet our expectation. And if we would have had someone on staff for this, we would have been in a much better situation.
And tell me how much money are we spending on this, and how is it going to continue through the years getting funded?
So the commitment that would be from this would be just until 2026. It would include both the cost for the salary. If we're contracting with a partner agency, there might be a small percentage that they have for overhead. And then, as the chief indicated at the work session, we need to evaluate what the needs are from an office perspective. And so those were the hard costs that we still needed to cost out, but we felt that the $250,000 up, which gets us through 2026, would be a good placeholder. But again, there are these programs in the state and in the nation, and once those grants start opening up again, we would quickly transition to applying for that grant. It would be very similar. The state runs it very similar to the LEAD program, in that they pay for those costs. And so the minute one of those grants open up, we would apply, hopefully with the data that we've been tracking, and we would have, after operating a program, we could be very competitive given our demographics.
So you're saying taking 250,000 each year, or over that period of time till 2026?
It's for the whole time, not each year. And that's what council's direction was.
Thank you for the explanation.
Thank you, Councilor Grego. So now I'll bring it back to council members here live. Councilor Vihil.
Of the three options, that's the biggest need for our city is to get going on the levy. But I do really like in option 2, the piece about a work program for homeless folks.
That's in option 3.
It is. Okay,
Yes.
then I'm option 3. Let's go.
Okay. All right. So we can get a motion.
Mayor, I move that we go with option 3 after this discussion on the ARPA funding.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Thank you all so much for your time and Councilor. Okay. Thank you for your time and effort, staff, and the discussion, council members. Okay, Ms. Martinez, will you please take the vote?
Yes, sir. Counselor Broyles?
Yes.
Counselor Hensley?
Yes.
Mayor Coleman?
Yes.
Counselor Vihil?
Yes.
Counselor Griego?
No.
Counselor Carson?
Yes.
The motion carried 5-1.
Okay, thank you. That brings us down to the next item on our agenda, committee reports. If anyone have a committee report, please light your mic or either raise your hand. Counselor Hensley.
So I won't have to say anything about tree board since I think they covered everything pretty intensely. But I did have marketing board as well. And so I think the big thing that came out of marketing board is the RFP did close for tearing down the motorway, and they've chosen somebody to tear down the motorway. And so that will be demolished if everything goes to plan this summer. And so then the next RFP that's going to go up with the plan is for 2022, then to do the beautification and sort of what it would look like, setting it up with the concrete and all that.
Thank you for that update, Counselor Hensley. Okay, Counselor Carson, Counselor Griego, then Counselor Carson.
Mayor, I just had a question for Liz. On the tearing down that building, what is it going to cost? The motorway building.
I don't have it in front of me. I apologize. I'll tell you what I can do is when I get back to my house, I'll send it to Holly or to Heather so she can send it to everybody.
Okay. Also on the same topic, I saw where anytime you tear stuff like that in an area where they used to run a lot of diesel plant and stuff, is there going to be some kind of cleanup study there done?
I think so. When they started this, they actually had done some testing. So I believe that's all taken care of. And because it's so close to this a main highway, they're also going to fence it while it's being torn down. And that was part of the bid as well.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Counselor Carson. You don't have a committee report? Okay. Okay, so we don't have any more committee reports. So that moves us on down to staff announcements.
Thank you, Mayor. I have one announcement and then one question for council. The first one is I'm a little sad, but also happy for the person. Farron, our utilities director, is going to be retiring. So he's earned it. He's put in 34 years with the city of Alamosa and just done an amazing job. But those are some really big shoes for us to fill. And so we are going to be starting that process. It's not quick. Farron's not out the door right away. He's probably going to be here until July or August, and he's going to be a part of our process as well. And so it's something that you hate to lose such an amazing employee like that, but you have to be happy for them when they're ready to relax and celebrate their life with their spouse and travel around. So I wanted to share that with you so you weren't shocked if you saw an advertisement. The question I have for you for tonight is, we're doing okay from a hybrid perspective from a council meeting for our regular meetings. My question to you is when we have work sessions, which are usually a little more informal, do you want us to allow the hybrid option, or do we want to have our work sessions be back to just in person? And so that's my question to council, because until we get the new sound system, we cannot sit around the table, and we just don't have the capacity to be informal. And so that's what my question is to council.
Okay, I'll turn it over to council for comments, and I'll recognize the ones who have their mics lit or either your hands raised. Okay, so I have Councilor Carson with his hand raised, then we'll go to Councilor Hensley and Councilor Brawl. Go ahead, Councilor Carson.
I know it was kind of a quick setup tonight, but I think it was functional. I deal with Zoom setups in all types of scenarios, and I don't think going away from a Zoom hybrid in any meeting right now is realistic. The state of COVID and the state of, the mandates and it's too dynamic. So I would just say, I don't think it's a wise idea at all to talk about moving away from that option at all. And I would have been there tonight in person. I just wasn't able to at the last minute. I actually had planned on going in Zoom originally because I was under the impression we still had to wear masks at the meeting, but I was informed today that we didn't. But I would say it's not really a realistic option to go away from a hybrid model at this point in time, and maybe probably not at all going into the future. Thank you.
And to be clear, the council meetings, the formal council meetings, we had planned on keeping hybrid. So this question is just from a work session perspective.
Well, no, and that's what I mean. I do work sessions all the time where, mind you, I have several resources, but I don't think the city's shy of those resources either. And setting up a laptop or an iPad to rock and roll real quick in a meeting isn't a big deal anymore. Everybody's pretty savvy at it. I think the city clerk is more than capable. I threw it at her 5 minutes before the meeting today, and she had it done 2 minutes before the meeting. So I really don't think that is a hindrance, I guess. But it's my opinion, just from a professional standpoint and what I do in my day job, I really don't see hybrid meetings going away, just in general. But as a counselor, I think we should keep it open as an option always, for at least into the future. Thank you.
I agree.
Okay, I've heard from the Zoom council meeting members. So Councilor Hensley and Councilor Brawls.
So I'm honestly going to go for in-person. I do think when they're in person, the focus is much more on the situation. I know even at home, you can't help it. Like when we do meetings and I'd be in the back there and my cat would walk in front of me. There are times where there are distractions. It's easy to get up and walk away. It's easy to start eating, drinking, things like that, which I think when we're here in a situation where we're focused, we put our attention to it 100%. So I do think there is a difference. And I would say that my choice would be to be in person.
Thank you, Councilor Hensley. Councilor Brawls.
Yeah, I agree with Councilor Hensley. I think it's better to be in person because there's too many things it's too hard, I think, from a communication standpoint. So, I disagree. I think COVID's going down. So I think in a month or two, it'll be nearly disappeared, but that's my personal opinion, and I'm not a doctor, so.
Okay, all right. Councilor Brawls, Councilor Vio. No comment for Councilor Vio. For me, I believe coming July, the pandemic for the most part is going to pass. And I think at that time, it would be beneficial for council members to be present if they're not experiencing any type of hardship or work-related type of issues. I can tell you this. For those of you who do not want to be present, I do ask that you notify the city clerk with ample time for her to get everything set up. It's really annoying when you have council members wait till the last minute to ask for such requests when we should let them know ahead of time so that the IT team as well can be prepared. So for those of you who choose to stay remote, just make sure that you follow the proper protocol and procedures by notifying staff with ample time. And then when they do set it up, make sure you participate.
Mayor, just in regards to that comment, I actually said I was going to attend by Zoom since 2 weeks ago. I was made aware today that you guys weren't requiring masks. But, you know, from a standpoint of COVID, you know, you made a comment just now that it was almost silly to me is, you know, you said in July, the pandemic's going to go away. How and where? I mean, we've gone through a year and a half of people giving us science and different opinions and you know, their personal opinions on when the pandemic's going to go away. You know, my personal issue with the whole masks, guys, is I have a hard time sitting in the same room as people that don't want to breathe the same air as me. It's just offensive to me, I think. And the fact that we're having COVID restrictions in place, like social distancing and mask wearing, I see people wearing their masks, yet you guys are still handing people pieces of paper and passing stuff around the room. And so it's almost silly, these rules and regulations that we have. And so I'm not opposed to being in person. I really think that it's silly, this whole thing. But at the same time, I think that from a professional and a societal standpoint, Zoom is here and it's not going anywhere, because the minute somebody has the opinion or the feeling that they're getting sick, I think it's their responsibility to let everybody know, because if you don't, you know, you're a super spreader. And so I think it's kind of silly for us as people who aren't scientists to gauge when the pandemic will go away. And if we can gauge that, we should have made it go away 6 months ago.
Okay, so you're welcome. So Ms. Brooks, do you have a consensus of what direction you want to go with? Or you're still as
Well, I
good as
have two, I have two who wanted in person. I have two who wanted hybrid. One who was a no comment and one who talked as if we will continue with hybrid. So I'm thinking.
Well, I
hybrid.
didn't get a chance to say anything.
Oh, I'm sorry, Counselor Grego. I thought you concurred with Counselor
Yeah, I
Carson.
thought so
I'm
too.
sorry.
I do, but you know, I think right now, you know, as COVID still continues, I think we should have this option to go ahead and come in with Zoom. You know, when I pray to God that that the mayor might be right, that in July it'll be over with, but I don't think so. But when that day comes, then I think we should be able to go ahead and come together again. But as long as this option is there, and I agree that we should contact the city clerk and allow her enough time so she could set up whatever she needs to do to set up for this deal. So I agree with Carson, and not too many times I agree with Carson, but this time I do really agree with it. Thank you.
I just meant that I predicted it was going to end in November for the election, and so I was way off. But thank you, guys.
So for clarification purposes, I am not a doctor either, and I'm not forecasting it to be over with in July. I just think that it's going to be coming to closer to our end or ahead, I hope. So that's just for clarification purposes.
So again,
Yeah.
I've got two in person, two hybrid, and
Counselor Hensley want to make a
So
comment.
I'm feeling like obviously we'll probably stay hybrid. So I have a request is that when we are doing it that way is now that we are, I feel, even I know in my classes, in other meetings I'm at, there's kind of that next level now of professionalism that we need to have then when we're on Zoom. It used to be that obviously we're all on Zoom. There's all sorts of things that are happening, but I think if we choose then to do it, that we're part of this meeting via Zoom, that we really do this from a professional standpoint and act like that we were here at this meeting as much as we can. Obviously, I mean, if something truly happens, a truck comes by, or, I mean, there are going to be those things, but if we could try to really make it then that we are as engaged as we possibly can, no side distractions and things like that, and sort of act like we are if we were sitting here. That's, I guess, would be my request then.
Okay, thank you, Counselor Hensley. So,
Mayor, if I may.
Yes, go ahead, Counselor.
I'm just trying to get a clarification there. I don't understand what Counselor Hensley is trying to say. I think we're all acting professional, and when we address and we raise up our hands and we do what we're supposed to do. So I don't understand what she means.
I'm pretty sure that comment was directed at me, but it's fine. I'm at home and, you know, with COVID, it's made the situation quite dynamic. And sometimes I don't have childcare at 5 p.m. And if I don't have childcare, I can just call into the council meeting and not be there. I also have that option. And at that point, I guess if I wasn't doing my job as a counselor, then you guys could move to have me removed from council. How about that? Thank you.
Any other comments?
No.
Did you get? to a
Sorry,
consensus?
Mayor. We'll continue with hybrid. The meeting next week, though, we don't have that. I mean, I can see if we can put up a computer, but the sound system is not going to be very good because we are at the fire training facility. But after that, any work sessions we can have you guys sit up at the podium or the dais there and use this technology.
Okay, that sounds fair. Okay, thank you. That brings us to the next item on the agenda. Liquor Licensing Authority Consent Calendar B. Councilor Vihil.
Mayor, I move that we approve consent calendar B.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, if not, Ms. Martinez, will you please take the vote?
Yes, sir. Counselor Vihil? Yes. Mayor Coleman?
Yes.
Counselor Hensley?
Yes.
Counselor Broyles?
Yes.
Counselor Griego?
Yes.
Counselor Carson?
Yes.
The motion carried unanimously.
Thank you, council. Up next, we have council comments. No comments? Okay, this meeting is officially adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.